we'll just go on to the panel session for today. And without further ado, we'll begin right away. So this question is to you, Toks. What are the career options within the field of international law? Is being a professor of law the peak of a career in international law? And how easy is it to switch between career paths within the field?
Well, firstly, thank you to everybody here for attending, and thank you very much, Lex Lata, for this generous invitation. I hope you can hear me well.
Loud and clear.
Great. Great question, the career options within international law. I think there are several options to consider. I'm just going to break them down as follows. So the first option is the court system. By that, I'm referring to the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice. You have ad hoc tribunals, for example, the UN mechanism where I work at the moment, Special Tribunal for Lebanon, etc. And within those organizations or within the court system, there are several roles where one can work in. So for example, you have the prosecution, you have defense, you have registry, or even the victims unit. And within the registry, that really is the branch of these organizations that run the diplomatic function. For example, if you were to work in the mechanism, for example, so you would be involved with UN correspondence and relations as such. So that's the court system. The next is international organizations. And within that, you have organizations such as the ICRC, which is the International Committee of the Red Cross. You have several NGOs you can work for which deal with international work. For example, there's Amnesty International. Then if you want to work within your local jurisdiction, you may consider a career within the military. And so that, for instance, could be being a legal advisor or being a lawyer, and you might advise on the law of war or humanitarian law. You could work in a law firm, for example, in which case you engage in advisory work or maybe defense work. And lastly, academia is very popular to consider, so research opportunities. You could also be a lecturer. In terms of the other part of your question, whether being a professor of law is something which you want to consider, I think that it's something which many professionals do in practice. Indeed, people work as practitioners and they go into lecturing as well, and it's something which you could do. It's not unusual at all. Just remind me, what's the last part of your question?
Yeah, I said, how easy is it to switch between career paths?
Between academia and
yes.
being in practice?
Yes.
Well, people do it all the time, but I think you have to be advised and guided by the market. If there's a marketplace and there are job opportunities, you may wish to consider it. If not, then probably think very carefully exactly what you want to do. But in practice, people do it all the time. So I hope that assists with the first question.
Yes, thank you so much, Toks. So it's not unusual to switch between career paths in international law. You just have to be aware of the markets. Great. Thank you so much, Toks. So the next question is to you, Tisu. For undergraduates, how important is it to identify an area of specialization early on? And how can a student deal with not having clarity as to the particular area he or she wants to work in? Then lastly, are there any dangers in specializing too early?
Well, I'm speaking from my own experience. I think that when you're a law student, that's the time for you to explore, the various branches and fields of law. So, for an undergraduate, I would encourage, that you explore, the various fields of law that are being offered at your university, so that you identify what you really like. And I think what many people have sort of experienced is that what you thought you liked when you were in university is not necessarily what you end up liking after university. So generally, I would encourage undergraduates to explore constitutional law, torts, trusts, international law, and so on and so forth. And then if they have identified what they would like to do, the field of law that they would like to specialize in, and then probably they can take that up when immediately after they graduate, to see if that is something that they would really like to do. I remember when I was an undergraduate student at University of Malawi, I thought that I would end up being a corporate lawyer, and I wrote my LLB thesis on corporate law. But when I graduate, I sort of realized that corporate law is not what I really wanted to do. And then I practiced for a number of years, and then I proceeded to do my postgraduate education. So I mean that is those are my views. And with respect to specializing early, again, it's I would encourage undergraduates to have an open mind, because when you're a bit younger, just fresh from university, you're still exploring. So you should not fix your mind on a specific or particular field of law, because our tests change with time. One, two, there's also the market reality. If you are working in a smaller economy, a smaller country like Malawi, you're likely to be a generalist, pretty much doing everything. But in bigger economies, you really have to specialize in or to choose a specific field of law. So if you have chosen a certain specific field of law, but then it's not, probably there are no jobs in that field of law, that may not necessarily be a good position to be in. So just keep an open mind and explore as many fields of law as you like. And with time, you get to sort of know which field of law suits you.
Thank you, Tisu. So keep an open mind and explore. Toks, I could see you nodding your head. Do you have anything to add?
I agree entirely with everything that Tisu has said. When you are young in law school, you just start, you get excited about anything you study. But there's also a difference between practice and theory. So don't just get very excited about tort law and say, oh, I want to do tort, and that's it. Be very open, because your mind might change in a few years from now. So I entirely agree with everything Tisu has said. Very well put.